Horse and buggy. Okay, GB bug is legit. Nothing wrong with that. Earth is flat, by the way. We don't need keys. Keys over... Okay, I'll take those. But otherwise, keys a little overrated. Not having keys is everything. Having them isn't. Dude, I remember we thought the Earth revolved around the sun, too. I think it was, like, this morning. Do you think... Okay. Obviously, as much as I hate to admit it, Flat Earthers are like a real group. I would imagine... if in North America, what do you think the incidence rate of Flat Earth belief is? 2%? One in 50 people? There's no way it's 15%. That would be too much for me to handle. But I also don't believe it's 1%. I would love to believe it's 1%, but... I mean, I know for certain one person I went to high school with in my graduating class was a flat earther. I had a graduating class of 80 people. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a representative sample. However... That's all. I don't follow anybody from my high school, like, because I deleted my freaking Facebook. So essentially, the fact that I know one person from my graduating class is a flat earther is like, frick. That means that there might be even more. Yo, baby plum. Is the literal one guy? Or it might be the only guy. That's true. That's definitely possible as well. Okay, so if flat earthers are at 2%, let's just say it's 2%, because I'm, you know, for banter purposes, what percentage of people in North America believe that NASA did not land on the moon in 1969? 5%? 10%? No, it's not 30%. I refuse to believe it's 30%. It's definitely not over 50%. Come on, man. Yeah, I watched the Flat Earth documentary. I'm also cognizant of the fact that the Flat Earth documentary might have like led to me kind of over-representing in my mental model the amount of, or the incidence rate of flat Earth belief out there. But I mean, I don't have the stats to back this up, so I'm literally just guessing. That's crazy, man. So basically, I mean, you know where I'm going with the next question. The next question is, all right, Chad, there's 6,800 of us in here. Who's the flat earther? Statistically speaking, you know, we got like, you know, maybe like a couple hundred flat earthers in here. Well, I don't know. We probably run a slightly different demographic on Twitch than a representative sample of the North American population, but like we probably have more college graduates here. I have screwed myself. Never mind, it was easy. It's almost as if there's an imposter among us. Don't lie, dude. I honestly, so post vaccine, I told you I was feeling like a little run down. Like I felt like I had the symptoms of the flu without having the actual flu, obviously. And I genuinely think that part of the reason I had kind of like a sore throat might have been from trying to imitate Dean Norris so much last week. Literally, like, it's a pretty subtle change from my normal voice, but getting the extra gravelly. Don't lie to me, Walt. You sussy baka. This is a good run so far. We you know, need a little bit more, but it's a good start here. We take, obviously. We take. Yeah, dude, I did get freaked out yesterday. When, and I know they're not scientists, they were just making conversation. But when Justin and Apollo were like, there's anecdotal reports that if you had a reaction to the first vaccine, you're like more likely to have had COVID to begin with. I was like, I don't think I had COVID, but at the same time, like, just I'd never considered that before. I'm not, to some extent, there's maybe a little bit of source, dude, just trust me, but still, I was like, I hadn't even thought about it. I guess there's nothing you can do about it in hindsight, but don't lie to me, NL. Whew. I was thinking about that myself. Yeah, it kind of, I wouldn't say it spooked me. It just got me, it got me thinking, I guess. Yeah, I'm not a gold rock sort of guy unless there's something I need to buy. Like, one bomb giving you like 3 cents on average is, in my opinion, it's a losing trade most of the time. You find it crazy that 100,000 people are watching some dude play a slot game? Can I tell you something? It doesn't surprise me at all. And I'm not just saying that like, oh, this is where society is. Honestly, I'm going to be careful with the way I say this, okay? Well, no, I'm going to say that I'm going to be careful with the way I'm going to say this, but I'm just going to say it the way I wanted to say it anyway. Watching people gamble is kind of entertaining. Watching Chib play Crazy Time or Monopoly Live, I understand. It's engaging viewing. And then the other thing is, like, maybe I've said this a few times in the past, and wrenches, this is not an indictment of the state of this website, I promise. It's a belief I've espoused for a long time. No. I think a lot of Twitch streams are, this time I'm going to be careful. I think a lot of Twitch streams are kind of boring unless you're already invested in the community and the personality. Like, when I'm going around Twitch and I'm trying to find something to watch, maybe it's late at night and like all my followed channels are already offline, it takes me a few clicks to get to a stream where I'm like, this person is actively like in the process of being entertaining. Now, admittedly, there's probably some times I go to a very entertaining person's stream and then they're just like, you know, they took like a little bathroom break for 2 seconds, and I'm like, well, you missed your chance to impress me. So I'm not trying to say it like that, but there are sometimes, like, I'll like idle in someone or lurk in someone's stream for like 5 minutes, and I'll be like, you haven't said anything. So, I mean, different people are after different stuff, don't get me wrong, but I think that gambling being on stream is kind of implicitly more entertaining than a lot of the stuff that people stream if you don't, like, for example, like, I'm trying to think of an example that's, like, inoffensive. Like, there's people that stream, like, Final Fantasy 14, and the whole point of the stream is like they're amazing at the game, and these like super difficult mythic raids, you can like learn their strategies to implement like with your own like static group and stuff like that. That stuff obviously has no appeal to me because I don't have an interest in the game to begin with. So that's what I mean. It's not like streamers are not entertaining, but like a lot of them, you almost need to have like a prerequisite vested interest either in the streamer because you've been watching them for a while to begin with, or alternatively because you're like, oh, I love Final Fantasy, so like I can watch someone while I play Final Fantasy. I can watch someone play Final Fantasy. Anyway, and I'm not gonna say, by the way, that I'm not in that boat from time to time. Like, I'm sure yesterday, if you were not an NL viewer and you saw me play 4 hours of Knockout City, There were times where you're like, why is this guy so salty and angry at his teammates all the time? It's a bad look. To which I say, I apologize. It was unbecoming of me to be so salty and toxic yesterday. Before I stream Ranked Knockout City, I'm gonna make sure that everybody online plays the damn tutorial so that they know the value of passing the ball, and then they also respond to comms that happen in the game, like pass me, throw me, lob me, and stuff like that. I'll make sure before I play the game next that everybody goes through the requisite learning materials that they should have gone through to begin with in order to learn the game. Maybe then I won't be so salty, okay? Okay, wait, hold on. This is holy cards at 12 out of 10 here. Oh no! Oh, no. I got so flooded. The holy card existing. It sent me. I got stun locked. Anyway, should have played the tutorial. I wasn't blinded by rage. I was actually blinded by dopamine. I was like, the booster pack's so good. Like, I don't know what to do. But in my head, I literally, like, I sent an unconscious message that was like, this boss is nothing. Don't even sweat it. Turns out I should have sweated it. Oh well. It's tainted loss, man. Take this tainted loss. Learn to fly again. Learn to live so free. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Like, I don't know. I think it's honestly like I'm not a geriatric millennial as coined by Business Week magazine. I was not born between 1980 and 1985. I was born in 1988. Those are two very different micro generations. However, I do think that there is like a bit of an age gap. Like, I think the younger generation, let's say from like, you know, 13 to 23, like the streaming is, I don't know. I'm speaking from a position of ignorance here. This is just my hunch. I suppose it's worth saying. But I think that it's more of like a community aspect for them, and less about like the the entertainment aspect is derived from being part of the community. To a greater extent than it is for older people, and I'll include myself in there, who I think are like, you haven't entertained me for like 10 seconds, say something funny immediately or I'm switching the channel, right? I don't know if that's true, but that's a hunch I have from time to time. But it's, you know, this is not a complaint in the slightest. It just is what it is. It's the impression that I get. Great song. Great song. Never had to, knock on wood. I wish they hadn't tarnished their legacy with that song they did on MSNBC, though. I still have a dream, rooted in the American dream. You're not doing funny. I am leaving. Peaced. Yeah, what was going on? Peaches was trending the other day. They were put there by a man was trending on Twitter. And you know what? I guess it was like it was another like elder millennial thing, right? It was like you can tell if somebody's a new millennial or an old millennial by seeing how they respond to the phrase "peaches come from a can." That kind of stuff bothers me so much, because I'm like, what do you think, like, when presidents of the United States of America, like, made the song, they released it for, like, a year and then deleted all copies of it from the internet? Like, people have been listening to that song for 2 decades, man. It's not like it only existed in the 1990s. But personally, I think I was born in the wrong generation. I guess that Isaac episode came out today, right? Where even though I was born in the generation where I got to see The Matrix unspoiled, I wish I could just go back in time and watch it unspoiled again. It's not really fair. I guess I don't want, like, I don't want to be born in a different generation. I just want to, like, watch a sick movie and then wipe my memory from it and then be like, let's go. Matrix, never... What's going on? Ah, Bruce Willis was dead the whole time? Neuralizer, no joke, would be a pretty sick invention. I want to wipe my memory and play Outer Wilds again. I want to wipe just the pop play from my memory. European millennials are in a different crowd compared to North American millennials. You know what? I never thought about, like, the regional differences. What are the hallmarks of being a European millennial? I'm aware Europe is not a monolith. This is like, it was one country. But, like, if there's any generalizations. Like, if you could make a generalization about North American millennials, like, there's a difference between us, right? We're not a monolith. Interesting. Dreamcatcher is always such an interesting play. I think we'll give it a try. We grew up, you know, in general, being maybe a little coddled by our parents, getting participation trophies and stuff like that, and I think we've been, you know, probably we've been raised more sensitive than maybe our parents' generations were. Maybe not as sensitive as Gen Z, but certainly, you know, with a greater eye of sensitivity, I think. An implicit distrust for financial institutions as a result of growing up in, or coming of age, I guess, during the global financial crisis. Coming to terms with the fact that older generations, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm like, you know, you used to take it as, like, self-evident that as time went on, wealth would pass from one generation to another and not merely, you know, be hoarded and, you know, legislated to be completely coalescing in one generation and never moving on from that point onwards. But, so there's a few things in there. But there's some positive stuff too, for sure. Like, you know, I think millennials we're kind of a unique generation in that many of us, you know, remember pre-internet existence, and, like, I think, you know, maybe suits us to different kinds of interactions and different kinds of work, maybe? I don't know. I'm not an expert in this kind of stuff. Obviously. In case that's not clear by the number of stutters I've done. But I don't know. If you're European, I got no idea. Don't skip the dream. Don't skip the dream. I do have a biology major. Unfortunately, I think biologically we're pretty much identical to previous generations. Except for the mRNA coursing through my veins right now. That's a full charge. Interesting. Okay, don't screw it up this time. This is good. Okay, you son of a... The day I came to your boss trap room and ruined your run was the single most important day of your life. For me, it was Wednesday. It does seem to be blood clot in here a lot, right? This is the third time today we've gotten blood clot on a boss trap room. It was me, Barry. It was Barry palmed the dip. Barry did. This is bad. Don't like. I still have a dream rooted in... Now that nightmare stuck in my head. Was I out of my head? Was I out of my mind? How could I have ever been so blind? I was looking for a boss trap room. It was hard to find. Saved. Why did you study biology? Look, I got, like, no pride here. It's amazing, like, if you let it, what percentage of, like, important decisions in your life basically just come down to, like, did you eat breakfast that day? Like, are you in a good mood? And, like, when was the last time you got complimented, and what did you get complimented for? I I mean, you got to go way back. This is potentially going to be a long run, which is like why the only reason why I'm going to go into it to this extent. I was definitely like raised in and not just parentally, but also like scholastically, in an era and a climate where if you were book smart, you never entertained the thought of not going to college, or not even like, because there's a difference in Canada, kind of between college and university. But like if you were book smart, there's no question you're gonna go to university. You're not even gonna entertain the thought of like becoming a plumber or something like that. And then on top of that, probably you would look to get a job in science or something like that. So I was already predisposed to think of myself like, oh, I'm not based on what I was passionate about in high school, which was honestly very little. But just based on how I did in my studies, I was predisposed, I think, to be like, I should look for something in science. Completely ignorant of what having a job in science actually means to begin with. Just like, just be a scientist, So then I had when we were applying for college and university, I had a meeting with my guidance counselor, who I literally had never talked to before in my entire life in this high school, because I'd never had like behavioral issues. And he was just like, so what do you want to apply for? And he gave me like a catalog of things, and I was like, I guess I'll apply for like biology. Why biology? Because I was doing pretty good in biology class, and also like I read The Selfish Gene before Richard Dawkins like self-canceled, and instead of being known for spicy Twitter takes, he was just like the most influential, evolutionary biologist of all time. I read The Selfish Gene, and I was like, this is a really interesting book. Don't skip. So I was like, I have an interest in biology. So basically, it's left item's good. So I had a hobby, basically, or a passing interest in a discipline of science, and I was like, yeah, sure. If you're asking, I suppose that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I'm actually like, I'm genuinely not like bitter about it or anything like that, but I think that the system, the way that we do it over here is pretty ridiculous to assume that like the average high schooler has not just any knowledge of what they want to do. Because I honestly think, like, maybe, and it's easy for a streamer to say, but I honestly think there's, like, I don't want to say too much focus on, like, what you want to do as a job. Because it's important, if you can get into a career that you actually, like, love, and it works well for you, that's the dream, right? But we weren't even really educated on the idea that, like, it's possible to like make a good life for yourself outside of, academia, basically, or, engineering. Like, the idea was, it kind of like, and I say this in hindsight, this is not the way I feel, but this is kind of the way that I felt like when we took careers class in high school and stuff like that. I always felt like they were kind of like, if you're book smart, doing blue-collar work is kind of beneath you. And really, I think the people who, were classmates of mine and went into the trades ended up having the last laugh over a lot of people that went to university, got a degree, like maybe a bachelor's degree in biology or chemistry or something like that, and then got out of school in the early 2010s and realized that like the job market for that is actually like, you don't just go to work at like the biology factory and get paid like $80,000 a year. They're like, well, if you love biology so much, well, at that point you like gotta do your master's, and then when you do your master's, you might be able to be like a professor, but you're probably not going to be able to be a professor at like a school in a super desirable location, because those will be handled by like PhDs right off the bat or something like that. Instead, you're going to have to go work like, I'm not going to insult any other kind of, place in the country, but I think you kind of pick up what I'm getting at. You're like, I want to work at the University of Toronto, and they're like, okay, well, first you got to go to Rankin Inlet and, do your time. Okay, Hold on. So I think that, I mean, inevitably you're kind of like, you're always working with like a moving target. I knew it. This boss is a nightmare, man. Like, I don't really blame my school system, because they were working, like, when they were designing how education should work in the 90s and 2000s, they were basing it on, you know, data and experience from, like, the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, right? So you're constantly using outdated information to try to prepare for an uncertain future. And in hindsight, it looks like they really didn't do a great job, but, you know, while you're trying to plan for it in real time, it's hard. That being said, that's a huge help. The system could use a change in that department, I think. Yeah. My parents' generation. I want my data. My generation. I want my data. Does nobody else see how absolutely fricked this is? That's a drill tweet. You can't -2 a drill tweet. Okay, holy card, please. Holy card, get me out of this. Holy card. So yeah, like I'm not, like, genuinely, I do, cringe is not the word I would use because it's kind of rude. But when I hear other streamers talk about education and they're like, school is stupid and I, you know, went to college for like 2 years and I hated it, so I dropped out and the whole system is like busted, I'm like, I feel like I don't agree with them on that one. I think there's definitely things that were great about my education, but also I think there's room, and it's a dirty word, but I feel like there's room for a little disruption in the education industry. Brimstone Parasite, that's pretty good, man. I'm scared of that for now. The Brimstone Parasite's legit. But I mean, so here's, and I'm just one guy, so like, you know, don't take this as gospel, right? And I'm one guy that hasn't been, I mean, I graduated from university in 2010, so we're talking like, basically, we're on like the 11th anniversary this month. And then I went back to school for programming, but even that's been like a few years at this point. But my take really is, hold on, I had a good one, but I don't remember. Oh, my clickbait title, I really feel like less people should go to university. I don't think, like, I grew up in what I hope was like peak season for like everybody with a decent GPA absolutely must go to university. And the other options were like not even entertained. I will say though, I think university was right for me. I just pivoted into I got lucky basically and fell into a different job. There's a lot of people I went to school with that I think, you know, they personally would be more fulfilled and also more, honestly, like be in a more lucrative position if they had just, you know, been instructed that it was an option to be like, you know, an electrician or a carpenter or something, and, you know, the end, basically. I mean, I get it, especially like from a parental standpoint, you know, for our parents' generation, the idea was like the only way to secure a good job was to go to college. I don't know how true that is, but that was definitely like there was an impetus for it. No, I haven't even touched on like the financial aspect of it, because like in Canada, it's expensive. Don't get me wrong, but it is not as expensive as in the U.S. In the U.S., it's like absurd. Not to be impolite, but like I started university at a Canadian school the same year that a friend of mine started his undergraduate degree at NYU. I think my tuition was like 4,000 Canadian a year. And I know you live in Finland and the government pays you to go to school and blah blah. Congrats, okay? I'm complimenting you. But his tuition was like $20,000 a year, pre like housing, food plan, like etc. etc. It's crazy. And at 20, that was 15 years ago, to be fair, so. Yeah, and Queens was actually good back then. You're absolutely right. that was before my university slipped so far in the power rankings. I gotta pop this. I was really hoping it was Alges. Anyway, I'm not trying to, like, you know, insult anybody's life choices. It's quite the opposite. I'm really, I guess I'm preaching from my own experience. If anything, I actually feel like I'm kind of, like, academically minded, you know? I think I would be well suited to a career in academia, which is pretty much, like, the only thing that an undergraduate degree in biology can kind of, like, qualify you for. At least that was my understanding. Of it, but I don't think it's for everybody. That and teaching. Oh, like you're doing right now? Oh, you're right, I didn't take soap. I'm not sweating it, but I should have taken soap. So the flip side though, like while we're talking about it, is I actually not only had a really good time in college, but we're gonna cut this anecdote in half. I apologize, YouTube, but it's just the way the timing works. Anecdote. You know, we can finish it here for a second, but I was gonna say I had a good time in college, but and I learned skills as well, particularly like, you know, with respect to public speaking and stuff like that, you know, if I hadn't done that, I probably would have been a much worse streamer, don't get me wrong. That being said, I don't think you should have to do 4 years of, you know, $10,000 a year education to get there. But it's an ancillary benefit for sure. All right, let's put another slash marker. College. Anyway.